Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today is March 19th and it's time to get back into the garden. It's starting to wake up. Today we're going to sow red onions and red cabbage 2 different ways. Using this water jug for winter sowing and the traditional way in cells. Normally I start my seeds in the basement under lights, but last year I tried winter sowing outside in jugs and it was very successful. My husband Dale had a liver transplant in May, so I can't start seeds in the house anymore. It's not good for him to inhale that soil with all of its funguses and spores. So I've set up some grow lights and heat mats in the garage, and we're going to see if that's going to be warm enough. We still have a lot of nights coming below freezing here in north central Maryland, but I'm ready to say goodbye to winter and hello to spring. It's our tradition to hang this on the fence in winter to encourage snow to come. But I've had enough, and it snowed last week, but I'm done. I'm ready to change this out and welcome spring. This isn't weatherproof, so I'm going to hang it against the house. I don't want it on this window because I like to watch the birds. We also need to hang out the garden flag. That's perfect. I call this the flower ring. There's a variety of flowers in here. And right now the daffodils are waking up. We have the first few blossoms. They started to open on a warm day, then it got down to 21, so they took a pause, but they're going to start again tomorrow. These are our first flowers here. There's still a lot to clean up in the garden, but the priority today is starting seeds. We're going to start with the red onions. This variety is called Red Weathersfield onions. It was developed in the 1700s, named after a town in Connecticut. It was a big onion producing area, and they actually called that Onion Town. They exported onions to the West Indies. It is an old variety. It's good size, about 5 inches, and it stores well. Most red onions don't store well. I grew these last year, and I really liked them. It's an heirloom, meaning I can save these seeds and regrow them again. I didn't save any of the seeds last year. I was just so busy taking care of Dale. I've already prepared my jug. This is a water jug because we don't drink cow's milk. I cut it open, but I left a hinge. Poked holes in the bottom, and you want to take off the cap. I filled it with moistened soil. I like to use regular potting soil. I don't use seed starting mix. This is my favorite soil, the brand Pro Mix, and this is their organic variety. It comes in compressed bales, and I love it because it stores well. I'll show it to you later. I have some over there in the front of the house. Put just a thin layer of soil on top and press it down. Onion seeds don't require light to germinate, but they do require moisture, so I'm going to lightly water these in. And add a tag. Also, I've written the name on the jug, but don't use a Sharpie. These will fade. It's best to use a garden marker. They are specially designed to resist UV rays and not fade in the sun. Markers came with my tags. This acts like a small greenhouse. When the sun hits it, it'll hold in the warmth, and at the right temperature, the seeds will sprout. Rain can also get in the top, and being sealed up, it'll hold in the moisture. I sowed last year, February 13th, and they germinated in 24 days on March the 9th. We need to tape this up to hold in the moisture. And I'm going to show you a variety of tapes you could use. Last year I used this super strong, sticky Gorilla Tape. And it stayed really well, but it was so hard to peel off. You could use just this traditional silver duct tape. It's going to be less strong. Packing tape. But this, with rain, has a hard time staying on the jug. But you can try it. There's painter's tape. I use these during the hardening off process where I have to open and close it every day for a week because it's easy to get on and off. Masking tape, which I've never tried. And I recently was cleaning up and organizing the garage, and I noticed I had some of this athletic, stretchy, medical tape. I bought it because last year my okra plant broke in a storm, and I used it to wrap around the broken stem, and it healed itself. So we're going to see how that works. It'll be easy to get off. I had to wrap it around double. Now, if I start these seeds inside in the basement under lights where it's warmer, they'll germinate in 7 to 14 days. We'll see how long it takes this year outside. They prefer temperatures of 55 to 75 to germinate, and that's soil temperature. If you buy little bulbs or plants, they'll be the right variety for your area, but if you're buying seeds, understand that onions come in 3 different varieties. Short day onions, medium or day neutral onions, and long day onions. These are a long day onion, meaning they require 14 hours of sunlight at a minimum to bulb up. I can grow these here in North Central Maryland. The greens grow in the cool weather, and then when the light hits 14 hours every day, they'll start to bulb up. So if you live in the South, they're never going to bulb up for you. You'll be frustrated. Why didn't my onions produce bulbs? You bought the wrong kind. Medium day neutral onions require 12 hours of sunlight to bulb up. I can grow those here too. And short day onions are for the deep South, Florida, South Texas. Those only require 10 hours of sunlight to bulb up. So know which onion variety is best for your area. If you want to see really successful big onions, watch from 2024 our onion playlist. I followed all of the recommendations back then. Spacing, watering, feeding, and I grew really big onions. Let's get this out into the garden and just leave it. We'll just leave it there, and when it's ready, it'll sprout. Onions are very hardy. After they sprout, if it freezes again, they won't die. If it was something like tomatoes, they may not make it, but onions are hardy. Before we go back and sow the red onions in the cells, let me show you some things going on in the garden. The strawberries are coming back to life. They're greening up. Last year, I didn't thin them. Every fall, I like to thin them to one plant for every 12 inches. I've learned that helps develop big strawberries. Yes, it looks cool when they fill out and get thick, but I've learned it's best to keep them thin. These are June-bearing strawberries. They're going to develop most of the fruit at the same time. Here, typically in May, not June. Along here are the other berries. Blackberries and raspberries. And these are new. I changed out the old plants for some new dwarf varieties. I want to cover them up and protect them with a net because I'm tired of sharing with the birds. Now, I love the birds, but I want the blackberries and raspberries to myself. Now let's just sprinkle on some seeds. Each cell has little 6 pockets, and we'll leave it in the garage on a heat mat, and I'll go ahead and turn the light on and we'll see. But we're going to also cover it with this greenhouse dome. If it's successful, this is what I'll share with my community. I'll have a community shelf out on the driveway, and I'll put up a sign saying free plants. And they can come take what they want. I love sharing with my neighbors. All onions require full sun. So when you plant your onions in full sun, not the shade. They all require a lot of moisture. If you want big onions, you need to make sure you water often. I'll have details later. This specific variety will be ready in 100 to 120 days, and that's from time of transplanting them, not from sowing them. Days to maturity always refers from the time you plant them in the ground, not from when you sow the seeds. I want to press this in and cover it up with soil about 1/4 of an inch. And remember, they don't need light or dark to germinate, but they need moisture. The red cabbage will go right here. Let's get this into the garage. The heat mat will stay on 24 hours, all day and night. But the lights are on a timer. They'll go off overnight. So I have all these shelves, and I need to install these lights in these various levels. But remember, cold sinks and heat rises. So use the top shelves first. This bottom shelf right now is 44 degrees. This one is 46. And then the heat mat will add more heat. It's exciting. I love growing plants. I love it. Every year starting seeds feels like a miracle. Okay, let me go show you the soil that I use. Oh, hang on, I've got one right here. Hang on a minute. See how it's compressed and it has a handle. I've already cut it open. But you have to add water. I used up all the seeds to encourage myself to save seeds this year. Onions are a biannual, meaning in the fall, leave about 3 onions. Leave them there all winter, protect them a little bit, and in the spring they'll send up a flower head, and in the summer they'll develop seeds for me to save. I have saved onion seeds in the past. Now it's time to warm up with some coffee because my hands are freezing. Now it's time for red cabbage. I grow it every year and normally in the spring and the fall. Last year I didn't grow any in the fall. I like to have my own homegrown cabbage to put into dill salads. Cabbage will last in my fridge for 6 months. Normally I don't buy cabbage, but we did have to buy cabbage this winter. I've grown hybrid cabbage in the past. It took me a long time to use up those seeds, but this year I bought new seeds, heirloom variety, so I can save my own seeds and they'll grow back exactly the same. Here's the variety I bought. Tête Nior. It's a French variety. Let me look at my notes. It's an old French variety. And I read conflicting information, which you'll find when you research things. It's a small to medium head. 7 inches, so I think that's kind of small. It stores well. It's red in color, and it's ready in 65 days. Not from today, but from the time I plant out the little plants. I plan to do it in the winter sowing jugs and the cell. So let's get started. I'll give you more information as we go. Make sure you use the garden marker, not the Sharpie. If you need help on how to design and cut your jug, I have a full video explaining everything from last year. So look in this video's description, click on more, and you'll see a link to last year's How to Design Your Winter Sowing Jug video. If you're in a different growing zone than me, here we're 6B, 7A, and it's time for you to start seeds that I'm not yet starting, check last year's playlist. Each vegetable, fruit, flower is going to have a video. Now I sprinkled on less seeds than with the onions because I only need about 3 plants. I probably put in about 10 seeds. And they're probably not all going to germinate. Now again, thin layer of soil. Cabbage doesn't require light to germinate, but it does require moisture. We're going to use the silver duct tape this time. I'm going to use a different tape on each jug to compare which works and which is not so great. Like I said, this stuff was hard to get off. That kind of helps hold it in place. You see that better? And you want to make sure you press out any gaps in the tape. If I was starting cabbage in the house in the basement, it would germinate in 7 to 14 days. I've had it germinate in only 3 days. Last year for winter sowing, I sowed them February 19th, and they took 19 days to germinate on March the 10th. I left them to grow for a month, and in the middle of April, I hardened them off, and I planted them out at the end of April last year. You want to start your seeds 4 to 6 weeks before your last freeze. Here, it's possible it could freeze up until the end of April. Then you want to plant them 2 to 4 weeks before your last freeze. Here in North Central Maryland, I can start planting them mid-April. If it's a warm year, it could be the beginning of April, but this year winter has held on. Let's get them out into the garden and then sow them in the little cells. I just thought last year it would be a good idea this year to write the date I sowed them on the jugs. Let's go get the marker. See how there's already condensation on the red onions from it holding in the warmth and the moisture. Now those will germinate when they're ready. For head cabbage, not leaf cabbage. Head cabbage prefers temperatures of 50 to 75 to germinate. Transplants will bolt and send up a flower head and be done if temperatures are consistently below 44. Now, for now, the little greenhouse will protect them, but if I had already planted them out and I get a really bad cold snap that lasts 3 or 4 days below 44, I would cover them with fleece. Now, frost won't kill cabbages. They can survive down to temperatures of 26. Those are more mature plants. Really tiny seeds, and I didn't have the time to count them out. Sometimes I do, but today I just sprinkled them on. When they're several inches tall, I'll thin them out to just 1 plant per cell. If there's an empty cell, I'll move one over. And I'm going to share these with my community. You also want to cover these with about 1/4 inch of soil. Now I'm not going to water these in, and I didn't water in the onion cells because the soil was more wet. That very first jug of onions that we sowed, that was the top layer of the soil, and it wasn't as wet. Let's get these covered in soil and get them into the garage. This coffee is hitting the spot. I love coffee. I've already made tags for each cell. There's 36 little cells. Because these aren't going to be super popular. If they were tomatoes, sure. People will tend to just take one plant. I'll leave scissors out there in the alleyway for people to cut them apart. But for now, we're just going to label one. Before I put them out on the driveway, I'll label each individual cell. Oh, I just remembered I didn't put a tag in the onion cells. Now, I know what the seedlings look like, but it's always best practice to mark them. Let's get these in the garage. Okay, before I put these in the garage, let me give you a little bit more information. This screen is to kind of give my neighbors more privacy. If you plan to grow cabbage, you need to plant it in full sun. It likes cool weather, but that doesn't mean it needs shade. It needs 6 to 12 hours of full sun to develop a head. It likes rich soil, so plan to feed it if you have poor soil. And it likes water. All leaf vegetables like moisture. So full sun, rich soil, and water it often. Let's put it in the garage with the red onions. I leave the lights on a timer and they come on for 12 hours. So all of my newer lights are LED. My older lights are the ones with the tube bulbs. I've bought various lights over the years. The ones with the old-fashioned bulbs give warmth, but the LED lights don't really add any extra warmth. But I just can't find replacement bulbs anymore, so I've had to buy LED lights. I like the wider shop lights, not the tiny ones. They're all 4 feet long, but some are wider than the others. They're bought at Home Depot, so I don't buy the cheapest, but I don't buy the most expensive. Don't buy that little skinny one. The first narrow light, that's only good for like overhead lighting. The middle one with 2 LED strips, but I like how it has the tapered edges that's metal. I really like that. It helps reflect the light. And the last one is a little bit more narrow, but it has 4 lights. They all come different ways. Just don't buy the cheapest. Now, if you use that first narrow light, you're going to have to hang 2 together, and that's what's over the onions. So it'd be better to invest in a wider shop light than 2 narrow lights. Now, they're all 4 feet long, but the widths are different sizes. Now let's start cleaning up. I took the old berry trellises, the tall ones, and I decided to make some storage. One for compost, one to hold my growing cages, and this one I threw in sandbags, but there's no sand in the sandbags. It's soil and old bricks. And those are our tall hoops for the whole garden. It's now my favorite way to grow, and I invested in the taller hoops. Here are the hoops set up. See how tall they are? They're called super hoops. These have been out all winter. They need some straightening. And I will add a net. Along here are my green stalk stacking planters, and they're starting to wake up. Not sure what's going to survive because I did not cover these this year. But the creeping Jenny for sure is coming back. There's strawberries and herbs in here. We'll see if those survive. Let me show you what we're going to work on tomorrow, and I'll include it in this video. I ordered all this soil in the fall, all ready to go. It never got moved in the garage. It's been a busy year. These strawberries need help. They're drowning. So we're going to move these. I'm not going to leave them in the front any longer. My neighbor's daffodils are blooming. The most sun on this property is here in the front. So tomorrow we're going to work around here. I need to clean up, drink my coffee, and rest up. Good morning. Ready to work in the front on the strawberries? I've already collected the supplies, but first we need to feed the birds and the squirrels. They're all waiting in the tree. This jelly feeder, I washed it yesterday and then the center broke. These things just don't last, so I kind of rigged it. We'll see if it works. This is for fruit-loving birds that are becoming soon. Hopefully it will attract orioles. We haven't ever got any, but hopefully. The catbirds, though, do love it, and last year the crows started visiting. The peanuts are for the blue jays. Blue jays will only come for whole peanuts. 2 years ago, a red-bellied woodpecker would come every day to get a peanut. They weren't here last year, but I have heard them this year. I think the construction noise is keeping them away, but hopefully they're nesting nearby. I've seen 2 chickadees, which don't normally visit. Now let's leave the birds to eat. More will come, and let's get to work in the front. These are wild onions. They are enemy number 2. Enemy number 1 is bindweed, which is native morning glories. I've decided no more strawberries in the front. We're going to dig them up and save them. Ooh, hang on. I hear the red-bellied woodpecker. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's in that big tree, but I can't see it. The white bucket is going to be for the onions and the orange bucket for the strawberries. I'm going to try to film without the tripod and avoid the shadows. The soil's really soft, so they're easy to dig up. Let's set up the tripod so I can work faster. Here's what the wild onions look like. From my experience, that sap will burn my sensitive skin. Now let's get all the onion bulbs out of the roots of these strawberries, then decide if we're going to dig up the rest of the onions. That's a grub. I think it's for June bugs. We'll check these again before we plant them. Now let's put these in the shade since they don't have any soil on them right now. Get all the soil to fill up in the holes. And lay down cardboard and then add mulch. Cardboard is a free, sustainable way to control weeds and hold in moisture. Make sure to overlap your cardboard and cover any gaps because weeds will grow through. Normally, if you do this in the fall, by this time in the spring, the cardboard will be soft and you can punch through it to plant down in the soil. Later, I'm going to plant probably marigolds here, but for now, the cardboard's just going to stay to smother those onions. I have 2 bags of natural organic wood chips. So we'll see if that's enough to cover this. If it's not, then any cardboard that's not covered will hold in place with these landscape pins. And if you mulch with fall leaves, straw, or hay, you're going to want to secure your cardboard because they're too light and your cardboard will blow away. I love to mulch with fall leaves, but not here in the front because they blow into the street. Let's get the mulch on and see if it's enough. Last, we need to pull up the old stalk flowers. So that wasn't enough. Now don't put the mulch on too thin. And you need to move it all the way to the edge of the cardboard. Don't leave the edge showing because that edge will dry out. Let's hammer in the pins. Looks like I need to order more mulch. I order from Home Depot. That's our home sign. There's a lot of different options for mulch. The easiest for me is bagged mulch. A lot of times I just order the cheapest, but that has dyes in it, and if it's a good price, I prefer to buy the organic. Let's hammer in the pins, pull up the stalk, then I want to show you the strawberries in these pots. And it's hot. I need to take off this coat. It's nice because yesterday I froze. It's beautiful today. Tail just honked as he drove by. That'll hold it in place until I get more mulch. How do you motivate yourself to get a task done that you've been putting off? Today, I love ribs, so I put some in a 275-degree oven to cook nice and slow and be ready when I'm done here for lunch. That's my reward. There's a bird screaming for a mate. They nest around here every year. Okay, let's get this done. Feels good. I'm satisfied. We need to pull up that stalk. But first, see these stakes here? There's a young man that likes to jump over this fence. I think he deals with some mental issues. So I add these stakes to prevent him from doing that. Number one, I don't want him to hurt himself, but I also don't want him to ruin my plants. And it looks like some of these need replacing. I'll save those and chop them up and throw them in the compost. Feels good to finally have taken care of that. I've been putting that off. In the front, I'm going to grow marigolds, hot peppers, which I didn't grow last year, maybe okra in the front, but definitely tall mammoth sunflowers. That's my tradition. Let's look at the strawberries in the pots and then clean everything up. I grow these strawberries mostly for filler. I don't thin them or cut the runners. I just want the greenery, but I do get some strawberries out of this. This is both varieties, June bearing and ever bearing. They're coming back to life, and we're going to have to get these pots cleaned up too. Last, I need to put these strawberries in some of that soil that I used yesterday. I'm thinking about planting them along there, but I'm going to have to move that hoop back. They'll be okay in this pot for a day. Let's put that in the garage. If I leave it here near the house, the squirrels will dig in it. It would do fine in the shade, but you need to protect it from the wildlife in the garage. And hurry up and get it planted. Here's where I want to plant them, along there. So I want to move the hoops back. In 30 minutes, the ribs will be done. Perfect timing. I can shower and clean up. Thank you for visiting Withrow Urban Homestead. See you later. Bye-bye.